Hey guys, thought I'd bring another bout of Cyber Dragon replays post ban list with this new format. And now if you're not too sure how this deck functions, then make sure to check out my Cyber Dragon guide videos in terms of how to play as well as rulings and tips. I'll have all of those links down below. Now this exact deck list was something I showed in a previous video not that long ago, so definitely make sure to check that out as well in terms of card choices. And so I'll have also that link down below. As for the side, something worth mentioning I guess is that, you know, obviously this is only good, well, quote unquote good for in real life events, because online you don't have any time restriction, so it's not actually good in online play, but I still decided to put it in the side because that's what I showed in my deck profile video. So I'll just show you a few replays and just go over some of my thought process and, you know, why I did what I did, just to help you learn how to play this deck if you're pretty new to it. So let's just get started. Alright, so let's start with the first replay, which is against Branded Tearlament. So this is probably the best way to play Branded at this moment, but you know, Branded Despia is still pretty solid. Definitely wouldn't want to count them out. And now he's just gonna do some Tearlament things here. Kikalos, pretty good card. And so now he's gonna be able to mill 8 cards, which is pretty insane. Meru, and then being able to fusion, bring out Dragos Tepelia, which is pretty good. The Adjuster as well, and then the field spell will allow him to also fusion summon, which gets that Masquerade for burn. Fortunately, we do have the Evenly, so it's gonna be pretty delicious. We do take that burn damage, but we do Evenly for like 5 cards. Unfortunately, we don't have a Nova Infinity line. We're just gonna contact, or rather Kaiju it, and then contact Fuse. We're searching that emergency just to have some follow-up next turn. He's gonna have the Tragedy. See, this is, I'm gonna pause here. This is one thing I don't like about automated simulators. So when this Branded Fusion was set off of Tragedy, it didn't give me an option to be able to respond, because otherwise I would obviously pop it with Overflow, because we do have that core. Keep in mind that if you're banishing from hand, it has to be original Cyber Dragon, so that's why you'll only be able to pop 1 card at this point, but that would be a big difference maker. But unfortunately it didn't give me that option because I didn't have that always chain button on. So that's one of the things I definitely prefer playing on Dueling Book. But you know, in terms of getting replays for how to play videos, I find EDO Pro to be certainly the most efficient. So he's gonna just go off really. At this point the Overflow is just not going to do anything. He does have Branded Opening. This is something that you should always be cognizant of when you're facing against the strategy, because it can help protect against card effects for their fusion monsters. I'm just playing it just whatever, but because I knew I was dead. And so unfortunately we are taking massive amount of damage. Again, if we could pop that Branded Fusion like we should have been able to, perhaps things would have been different, but it's okay. On to the next one. Alright, so let's get our revenge on Branded Despia. So now this is more of the variant you're probably more so used to, at least prior to Power of the Elements. He's going to go with the Branded Opening, get the Libium, and then the Imp Chain, get the Patchwork. And so, pretty good card getting you. And then the Branded Fusion, of course, really good card. This is the one that, you know, you typically want to imperm, as long as they don't have anything else to try to stop it. But, so Aluber, and gets the Branded Red, so they can still make their fusion plays. Guardian Chimera, and Tragedy, and then into Poly for that Dragos Tepelia, set Super Poly and Droplet, which is pretty good. And that Branded Exile is honestly really strong. So now our hand is weird. We don't have the Nova Infinity line play for us, and we do need some kind of going second card. So we're going to start with the Prosperity, get that Lightning Storm, and let's just at least get rid of that back row. We're just going to pop that Jizukuru over the Chimera. So this is something I want to talk about. Dragos Tepelia, this negates activated effects, okay? And hers, or any of the baby Cyber Dragons, their effect to be Cyber Dragon is a continuous effect, so you can still contact Fuse into Fortress. And I also say this because Fortress actually requires original Cyber Dragon. Mega Fleet is different, because Mega Fleet, you can use Cyber Dragon Monster, which means it can be baby Cyber Dragon, even if their effect was negated. But for Fortress, it does have to be original Cyber Dragon, which means your baby Cyber Dragon's effect needs to not be negated for you to be able to fuse into it. Therian, typically you want to equip that hers, just so you can sort of get something out of it when you tribute it off, which is Cyber Dragon. Or if you have baby Cyber Dragon Grave, you could add that as well. This is another thing I kind of want to mention. Another thing about Fortress, if you're new to Cyber Dragons, this card cannot be used as fusion material, so you can't like Super Poly it, or in this case he can't try to like Aluber effect, or not Aluber, Fallen of Alba's effect to try to go into Mirror Jade with Fortress, which he might be wondering why he wasn't able to do it, but if he read the card he would know. So we're going to summon the hers. Again, we're just going to try to negate that with the Regulus. Hers gets a Cyber Dragon, which in this case doesn't really do anything. Unfortunately, our hand is not that great. We also can't even get over. Keep in mind with the Prosperity, I unfortunately banished the Anima, which is why I couldn't suck this up. I did go into Almirage so I can just tribute off and not take any damage, and also be able to protect from card effects. Okay, so this is unconventional. We're going to tribute summon the Cyber Dragon, special the Naxxter, bring that back so we can do our Nova Infinity play. We did use Nova's revival, or Naxxter's revival effect rather, so we are locked into Machines Infinity. We will suck up that Albaz. Prosperity, I also banished the Seeger, which is why I'm not doing anything with these two, or summoning any Link 2 for that matter. So that's unfortunate. Brandon Red, we are just going to keep negating it with Infinity. I thought he was baiting me. If he was just going to set, I think it would have been just worth it to take the risk of, you know, saving some resources so that you can just go off on a couple turns later. But unfortunately, well, fortunately for me, you know, I can keep doing damage and also have that negate when he's in top deck mode. And we are sucking up that Hers so that each time we negate, we can just trigger that Hers just to get something out of it at least. So we're going to add the Cyber Dragon. And then, so now it's our turn. We get the Terraforming, which is great because now we can start our Therian plays. Again, we're just going to keep negating it. We are out of materials at this point because he doesn't have anything in the grave, so it's not too much of a concern. Again, we're going to try to equip that Hers whenever possible, and we'll just tribute summon Cyber Dragon, which is not something you normally do, but I somehow ended up doing that twice in this game. So yeah, those are some things to learn. Alright, so the next replay is against Drytron, basically another deck that uses Cyber Emergency, and this was, I believe, post-side, he made me go first. So this is something that you should also be prepared for when you're playing Cyber Dragons, because you're traditionally going second deck, but some decks will make you go first, but in the current age, to be honest with you, most of the time they'll just be making you go second anyways, because they're just so strong going first. One thing I did want to mention, the reason why I left Cyber Dragon like this is because of Overflow. So right now, we only have Cyber Dragon, and then now with Overflow, we can pop 2, because I can banish the Cyber Dragon on the field. I mean, technically, you can also banish from hand, or if you happen to be able to use the negate before you can use Overflow, then you don't have to worry about anything because you can just banish from grave instead. But I just do this just in case I have to try to, you know, use this Overflow before I can use the Infinity Negate, and I also want to try to keep that Cyber in hand whenever possible, because the Cyber Dragon on the field, that's honestly totally expendable. So we're obviously not negating Emergency. Don't negate the activation of that. Only Ashes if even that realistically, but if you negate the activation of Emergency, they can just add it back to their hand. So we are going to try to negate. He's going to Orange Herald. We'll at least protect the destruction part, but it will get negated. Natasha, it's pretty annoying. I forgot about that, but I guess that was it, fortunately. So we're going to just stack up that Natasha. I don't know why I was put in attack mode. So yeah, just scooping there, but just wanted to show you that quick replay in terms of when you end up going first and having to use that Overflow and Infinity, hopefully in the right moments, because without Anaconda and Dragoon now, this deck is definitely noticeably much weaker when forced to go first. Alright, so now this next replay is against Mathmech, which is a very popular deck since Power of the Elements, and definitely make sure to go check out my deck profile with Enzo Central, who's top 10 on Dueling Book with Mathmech, at least at the time of when we did that video. He's honestly one of the best Mathmech players online, and just so good, and he just shares a lot of insight regarding this deck. And so I would highly suggest that if you're trying to play this deck, you should definitely watch that profile. So anyways, he's just doing his crazy shenanigans with Mathmech, well, more so the Cyber's part at this point. Circular, that is the new card that came out in Power of the Elements, really good. Diameter has always been very good, because it can kind of serve as that Omni Negate, and it's very easy to forget. Now this is a very big board. Draw Spooky Dogwood, which really does nothing, going second card, or I'm sorry, going second as a 6th card. We're going to use Lightning Storm. So now we clear some cards. We do get rolled, which is not great. So that means we also can't add off of hers because we don't have any Cyber Dragon Grave, and so we can't add that Cyber Dragon in from deck. Unfortunately, we are not in a good roll here. But that Dogwood, I mean, at least now it has some use. Unfortunately, it has 0 attack. He also decided not to summon and all, so I just take half damage. I think he should have probably committed. So now we can survive. So maybe this card actually did something after all. So we're going to Machine Duke now. We are ready to go off Nova and get that Cyber Dragon Infinity. And then he just scoops here, but I'll basically tell you how you can basically win at this point. So you can use Cyber Load Fusion, go into Rampage, and then with Rampage effect, you can send the, for example, Hers and the Naxxter. and then hers will add the Naxtra from grave back to your hand. You can special that Naxtra by pitching the Kaiju and then summon Cyber Dragon, and then you can go into Seeger. Now once you use Cyber Level Fusions, just remember that you can only attack with that fusion summon monster. So before you do that and go into battle phase, you'd want to suck up that Linger Rebo with the Infinity, and now with the Rampage, you can attack first into the Dotscaper, use Seeger's effect to pump it up. Rampage will be at 42, so it'll destroy over that, and then it'll be able to attack 2 more times at 42 each, and that would be OTK on its own. And just remember, Seeger, your opponent will not take damage from Seeger when you use that effect, but they will still take damage from that fusion summon monster that you're gonna pump, in this case Rampage, or any other monster that's 2100 attack or more. Really, you're still gonna be able to take damage from that monster. So on to the next one. Alright, so this last replay is against Sprite Runic, and I do lose this one, but in a deck out fashion, and I thought, as weird as it sounds, it was kind of interesting. There is a bit of an interesting component that comes up in this game, but I thought I'd show that this deck is pretty strong. Sprite stuff is obviously very, very good. I mean, I'm a little iffy. I personally play Sprite Frog myself, and I find with Runic, the only time where it gets kind of iffy for me playing this strategy is that, you know, you do need at least 2 Runic cards for that engine to do anything. Otherwise, it's really just there to give you that free level 2 body. But, you know, that's just my opinion. Obviously, it's topping events, and it's doing, it's so far done better than pure Sprite Frogs, I think. So we're going to start with the Emergency. He's going to just be able to keep drawing. This deck just adds cards to their hand like crazy. We're going to go with the Prosperity. Trying to get some more going second cards. We do have the Lightning Storm, and so we are going to try to blow up that back row because that field spell is just way too good. Unfortunately, he does go into IP. I think he triggered this by mistake because now he has to pop his own card. So now here, I want to just clarify. Usually, I don't want to use this like in terms of contact fusion away, because now I'm susceptible to like Gamma, or in this case like Imperm. I did it because I wasn't sure if there was something I was missing with Abomination in terms of being able to pop another card. Honestly, if I just took the time to read, I would have realized I was probably fine, but I'm like, whatever. It didn't matter. I did get Veilered anyway, so I cannot do really much of a meaningful play, and so we're just gonna have to set and pass. He's going to play, again, special out the Runic stuff. He's going to discard, gets the field spell again. So, from my understanding, I think the earlier Sprite Runic builds, and maybe even now, they typically only play one of this field spell. I don't know if he's unique by playing multiple, or if this is now the standard. Something I need to kind of get the hang of as well, and just so I know if I'm stopping certain things, if it's worth it. He does have IP again, but remember with the Runic stuff, you have to remember when it comes to like real life event play, because you know it's not going to remind you like this. You do have to skip that next battle phase, so that's something I think will get overlooked quite easily in in-person events. So definitely watch out for that so you don't get cheated on, especially in time. This Runic spell, pretty crazy if it stays on board. I mean, he has like what, like 9-10 cards in his hand, so it's pretty crazy, and I'm losing cards like crazy. Yeah, I honestly don't know what to say. He has so many hand traps, lots of spells. I'm losing cards every minute, and so now I just play Imperm anyways, just in case he's stupid enough to play something in this middle column later in the turn, but you know, might as well, right? So he's just going to be able to recycle. That's the other thing with this, is that they can at least add cards back to their deck, so that they have a much less chance of decking out than you do. As long as their field spells off, you know, they're not going to deck out. And so now he's just going off with now the Bomber Dragon. We're gonna Super Poly here, not the best. Again, you know, just trying to have some fun here, I guess. So this is kind of funny. I use Cyber Load, and you can actually return all the banished stuff. And you'd actually be able to pop all this back row, but obviously you know that they have something, right? Like just all the Runic stuff, they're gonna be able to negate, and they also have one that can destroy. So yeah, it's kind of asking for a lot to be able to have that go through. Unfortunately, yep. So it also gets destroyed, and we're pretty much gonna get decked out. But you know what? I wanted to play it. I don't think I've ever been decked out on, like, whether in real life or in online play. So this is kind of, in a way, a fun experience. Not really, but unique. And he's gonna use Dark, get that Mindrig Stapelia, and again, you have to skip the battle phase. Now in real life play, you do actually have to say that you enter battle phase and then you skip it. Technically, if they don't say that and they just pass and they never enter battle phase, you could say next time, well, now you have to actually skip this battle phase. Anyways, so that was it for the replays, and in terms of just some of the interactions to learn when you're playing Cyber Dragons. Hopefully that was helpful, and yeah, take care.